Could, I guess you know why I'm here. I was here a month ago.
Yeah.
I just wanted to bring you some more information regarding the distance restriction. Y'all may already know this, but we hold the distinction of being 3 times further away
Yeah.
than any other municipality in Upper East Tennessee. Here's where we are versus every other municipality. I even tried to check over in Southwest Virginia, but I think that might be a state issue. I don't know. I also checked, and according to Landglide, that building down there is 1,240 feet from the other building. Now, the statute in Church Hill says property line to property line, which exceeds it even further than the 1,200 feet.
From the school?
Yeah, from the school to that building's 1,240 feet. But the statute here says property line to property line, which clouds it a little bit, you know. But I guess my biggest question, I hear a lot about control and everything, and here's some more data points. I'm having to think and work on this way too hard. I was in the restaurant in Mount Carmel 2 nights ago. Ran into 3 people that drove through Church Hill and went and bought their food in Mount Carmel. To go to the same restaurant and drove through Church Hill and spent their money in Mount Carmel. I do it. Since you all saw me 4 weeks ago, I've had Mexican food 4 weeks, let's say 7 times. I didn't spend $1 of that in Church Hill, Tennessee. That adds up. It's a lot of money.
It adds up, but I'll give this a lot of thought since you come. There's no one come to this city and ask for a beer permit. That's the way we do it. They gotta come and request for a beer permit. That's why we have a beer board. And then we make recommendations, whatever we want to do. And I really think, being as we have consistently, the last 30 years handled it that way, that don't necessarily make it right. But if somebody wants a beer permit, then they come in and fill out the proper paperwork, right? And then we turn it over to the beer board, and then we get our police involved in it. And then if this board wants to make a change, so be it. But we'd be naive not to do that, you know, is all I'm saying. Somebody, if we've got a business that wants beer, then I think they should come to the city and ask for the beer permit. And that's the proper way of doing it. And then we'll take it from there.
I'd like to ask a question. I was not here at the last meeting.
Yeah.
You were talking about from property line to property line. What is the distance from property line to property line?
I don't have that, but I can get it. I provided him some information. The state guideline says it should be building to building if you're using a straight line.
Well, I thought it was 1,200 feet, Randy Chris.
Our restrictions are 1,200 feet.
Yeah,
Yes, that's what.
but we don't know what the property line is.
No, but I think you could interpolate from what he's saying that from property line to school property line, it's going to be less than 1,200 feet because he's saying it's 1,240 feet from building to building.
Building to building, that's the land glide measurement for the properties. But the Church Hill statute is using the property line, not the buildings.
Right.
The state says that if you're using a straight line measurement, it should be building to building.
And if it's building to building, there's more than enough, 1,200 feet.
Yeah, it's 1,240 feet.
And you know, like I said, the board may want to look at changing these distances.
That's all I'm asking. I mean,
What does that mean, Morristown has got 0?
well, Morristown went in and preemptively did it to 0 feet to avoid what's happening here. Morristown did not want a pop-up church limiting their ability to do retail or restaurant activity in any of their districts. So they preemptively went in and said, okay, we're not going to have that restriction. Because if a church moves into Main Street in Morristown, then that says, okay, we can't have no restaurants down here. At least that don't sell beer.
What about the schools?
I don't know, well, that took care of everything when they took it to 0. The irony here is that the state tells you that you can sell moonshine within 6 inches of the church, which is what you all experience with cowboys. So they can sell moonshine, but can't sell a lot bigger. I mean, I see it as an inconvenience to the citizens, and in a way, you nullified the liquor by the drink vote by the citizens. Because if you ever seen a restaurant that came in that just wanted to sell liquor, they want the beer side. So a restaurant could come down here and they couldn't get a beer permit if they were close to a school, church, or park. So regardless of what the citizens wanted, it would block out those businesses that wanted to come down here. The nice gentleman on the end, I was talking a week ago, and he mentioned Cracker Barrel. With this statute, I think it pretty much says Cracker Barrel, not that they're gonna come down here and build, but I can't see them ever having an opportunity to be in Churchill, Tennessee because of this restricted, beer restriction. I just thought it was.
Sell beer, I didn't even know that.
Yeah,
Yeah, so-
Gravy and biscuits.
yeah,
Huh?
Beer and gravy and biscuits.
yeah. I'm never gonna go to Cracker Barrel and have gravy and biscuits and a beer. But, you know, that's the irony of this, that within the city limits of Churchill with this restricted beer permit, they wouldn't even be here. They
So
wouldn't
you're
show up.
telling me in Morristown, they could sell beer right beside the school?
Oh, yeah, they got a 0-foot restriction. And that's basically what kind of Jonesboro's doing. They're deferring to the state. And you know what happens when you go to the state. State has no restriction on distance.
Well, I see Jonesboro's not on here, well, they had, what's theirs, you know?
That's what I said, they defer to the state. In Jonesboro, to get a beer permit, you go to state first. State gives you a liquor permit, they give you the beer permit.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I'd much rather see the beer than the liquor.
Oh, I mean, it's only logical that, you know, have somebody go get a beer and have dinner. But the state says, as you all witnessed with Cowboys, they said, y'all can sell Jack Daniels 6 inches from that church, which is the thickness of the
Are
wall.
you talking about Rebel Yell?
No, the one that down next to Patsy's that,
Where Maple Leaf used to be.
Yeah.
I mean, where.
he went and
where
got a
Maple
state
Leaf used
liquor
to be.
license, which basically said he could have that right next door to the church.
Right, in the shopping center.
Right, but he
Yeah,
couldn't get
gotcha.
the beer permit.
I think, and I get a lot of thoughts of this since you was here last, Chris, I think we really need to take a look at it, because we've got a couple of people, or a couple of businesses, we did, I think they're gone now, but we gotta really look at our zoning, because we could essentially allow selling beer in R1. You know, forget the distance, I mean, they just could. And I'm still amazed that this property up here it's a business is an R1. I don't know how that happened, that was years ago,
I don't understand your
but
point.
we got a business
Yeah,
in an R1
yeah.
that they're the ones that kept coming wanting to sell beer
Mhm.
on Oak Stage.
Yeah.
You know, I think we need to, you know, if we're gonna look at this, we need to put something in place to protect people in R1. Do you agree, Buck?
Well, you can, and there's an article here in the information that he's handed out to you that says, residential dwelling, county may adopt a resolution to forbid the sale of beer within 300 feet of a residential dwelling, measured from building to building. You can do that, but ours doesn't. That's, I guess that's the point you're making. Ours just says, church, school, or other, place of public gathering within 1,200 feet of any school, church, or other place of public gathering. And this says the distance shall be measured in straight line from the nearest point on the property line upon which sits the building from which the beer would be manufactured, stored, or sold. But if you're looking at state interpretation of cases, even though the straight line, this says the straight line method of measuring requires that the distance be measured in a straight line between their properties or at the nearest points rather than by driving distance. The measurement is made from building to building because TCA 575-105B requires measurement from the place of gathering. So I think question the validity of our ordinance as restricting a business that's 1,240 feet from the school building, that it would most likely be overturned. So I think maybe the city council should take a look at that, or if that person does apply, I think we'd be hard pressed to justify denial if it's actually 1,240 feet from building to building, not property to property. That's just my.
But these figures you give us, these numbers here, and you got Churchill 1,200 feet, and you got Mount Carmel 400 feet, is that 400 feet within a residential area?
It's church, school, or park.
Oh, just in three.
Right.
So we would really need to take a serious look at the R1. Check those folks.
Yeah.
Because what a lot of people doesn't know, our chief of police knows, just like we've got a business up here on Oak Stage that's in an R1. And you know, those folks kept coming back, wanting to change. But what the board probably don't know, maybe the board does know. But we had a lot of calls there, didn't we, Chad? A lot of calls. And that's the reason, I guess the board voted no, is for that reason. And like I said earlier, a few minutes ago, I don't know how that got zoned in an R1.
I think the difference in what we're talking about with Rebel Yell is we're talking about a restaurant with beer and not the alcohol. And with them, when we didn't give them a beer permit, they went to the state and got a liquor license.
They did.
And they were selling liquor, and they became a biker bar, and so I think that's a whole different level than what we're talking about
To
here.
your
not
point, we
gonna be
kind of
bans
forcing
involved.
them into the liquor.
Do what?
Yeah.
Kind of forcing people into the liquor.
Hmm.
That's the second, Cowboys went and did it. Of course, they went belly up, so it didn't matter.
Well, Rebel Yell went belly up too.
Yeah.
I think the problem with Rebel Yell was not them serving the alcohol causing the problem, it was the bands.
Right.
The loud, and they're not gonna be banned down there in that.
Right. Well,
Mexican
initially.
restaurant.
No, they're just,
Yeah.
They want to have something to have taco and beer.
And the reason the ban took place, Keith, is because it was in an R1, close to housing.
No, I understand that,
And
but
that's
I'm
why
just
we was getting
saying,
all the complaints.
we're talking two different things right here. See, I missed last week.
Yeah.
and-
Well, that was supposed to be the Rebel Yell, a first class restaurant.
Right, that's what she portrayed it when she come to here too.
First class, and I don't know, I wasn't there.
well, I read the paper, it said it was supposed to be a barbecue restaurant. I don't know anything that went down with
Right.
that.
It
I
was
mean, that's
supposed to be-
initially what they talked about. And then when we didn't give them a beer license, they went and got the liquor license, and then
Turned it
they
into
were
a
doing.
joint.
Well, Cowboys
heavy
done the
music
same
and-
thing. Cowboys went and got a liquor license because there was a church next door to them down there. Now, they left, I think they went to Rogersville, didn't they?
I'm not sure. I've just followed it.
That's
in the
where, they may
news.
not
I
be
mean,
there now, that's where they went.
I wasn't that impressed with the food, so.
Uh,
And since I brought this question up, I mean, I've met Pedro, the guy that has opened the restaurant down across from my place, and told him that I was trying to help him get a beer license down there. But I mean, we can come back in the next meeting and I guess submit it to the board for a vote to hopefully.
No, it didn't work that way. He has to come and file for a beer permit. He'll go to City Hall, and you issue it to him, right, city recorder? I think so, that's right.
Well, first they gotta come, Melissa will, Melissa
Do
will
what,
take
Chris?
the information, and then we've gotta present it to the beer board.
The beer board has to approve the issuance of the
Yeah.
license.
So that's the way it works. And that's the way it needs to be done.
But it's outside your current statute, so he would be submitting a license for a place that you've already deemed, he can't have it, correct?
Well, we've not deemed it till the beer board looks at it.
I don't, when did we deny a permit?
No, I'm just saying, right now by statute, he can't have a permit at that property. You agree?
If the beer board turns you down, he has the right to appeal to us. Is that not correct? Because that's what they did, didn't they?
Yes,
I think they,
All I'm saying, it's not in dispute that he's outside of the statute. So to request a beer license, he can't get it by statute. The statute would have to be changed.
Can the beer board do a variance?
well, no, the beer board can't do a variance, but if they can take into consideration states' ruling on precedent and determine that the point of measurement is not from property line to property line, but from building to building, which the case law that he's provided pretty well substantiates that. So
We're extending the 1,200 feet the same property line.
the beer board may be wise not to deny it based on state precedent, based on case law
But
precedent.
the proper procedures is to come in and request for a beer permit. Am I right or wrong?
That is one way.
Okay.
Another way is if any councilman wish to introduce an ordinance to modify the setback requirement, that's another way. Then it could conceivably meet the requirements. So there's two avenues. That's not the only way.
Well,
I
I didn't claim to know it all.
But
I'm just going procedures that we went through since I've been an alderman.
well, right now, the ordinance that's in place would prohibit issuance of a beer permit from property to property, but I would advise the beer board that that's not enforceable. It would be building to building, and if from building to building qualifies, then I
You
think
qualify.
that the beer board should consider it
Yeah.
and recommend that we make a change in this ordinance to reflect what state law is, what state law established by case law is. But
And
that's
that is what?
building to building,
Okay.
not property line to property line.
And that's state law.
Well, this case law, state case law, in Y&M versus Beer Board of Johnson County, it's a 1984 case. According to the Attorney General, the measurement must be taken from the nearest portion of the entire building, and not just from the nearest portion of a structurally distinct portion of that building that houses the business engaged in the sale of beer. There's another case, Edwin versus Richardson, which requires the measurement from the place of gathering, which would be the building, not the property line. But the way our ordinance was worded, it is from the nearest point on the property line upon which sits the building, from which the beer would be manufactured, to the nearest point on the property line of the school, church, or other place of gathering.
So, in other words, all we would be doing is, according to state case law, we'd just be modifying our ordinances to follow state case law, right?
It depends on how you modify it.
Okay.
If you come back in line with all the other municipalities, then it would make that a pretty moot issue. But if you want to be 1,200 feet when everybody else is 400 or less, then should look at modifying this to reflect what case law has determined.
Yeah. Does it have the footage according to the state? Is it different on distance than what ours is?
I don't understand your question.
State's got theirs on beer now. Is their footage any different?
State doesn't have any restriction on beer,
Okay.
not that I'm aware
I
of.
believe that thing I referenced, the state declares a 2,000 foot maximum. But a municipality can reduce that. But if I read that correctly, and again, I stayed at Holiday Inn Express last night, so I'm just looking on the internet.
You
But
said
I
they got a
believe
2,000 foot maximum, but no minimum.
Right.
That's what we're looking
The
at.
municipality can set it at 0, which several of them
I say,
have. Yeah,
looking at what you're showing on Marshtown, it could be 0.
yeah.
Yeah, this says, in Youngblood versus Rutherford County Beer Board, while the statute speaks only of a 2,000 foot rule, Tennessee Supreme Court has held the authority to impose a 2,000 foot rule implies that a county may impose a rule prohibiting the sale of beer within a lesser radius from churches, schools, or places of public gathering. Thus, the statute establishes only the maximum distance within which the county can prohibit beer sales. In other words, the county couldn't prohibit sales 2,500 feet away. The statute just says that you're limited to 2,000 feet as your maximum. And then it says, once the county's distance rule is established, it must be uniformly enforced, or it will become invalid. So, I think Hawkins County is 400 feet.
I didn't even check Hawkins, I was just looking at every
I'm pretty-
municipality in East Tennessee.
I believe.
And
that's what it
noticed the
is.
disparity and wanted to get Churchill on a level field with everybody else when it came to development and restaurants and opportunities.
It's either 400 or 500.
Well, you know, we could look at that and go on by what the state is and then look, I mean, I don't think we should, me personally, I've only got one vote. I don't think we should hypothetically just come in here and cut our distance because other municipalities have. I'm not saying we shouldn't cut our distance, but when you get down to 300 feet, as much as 100 feet, you've moved a long ways from 1,200 feet to 100 feet. That's a big distance. But all I'm saying is, because we have a business in the R1, and Chris, this is to you, if we done this, and then, okay, this business up the road, it's in the R1 now. We cut that distance, we gotta protect R1 taxpayers.
We don't, there's nothing, in place.
Well, you say we don't, but you don't get the calls.
Well, but
The city does.
that's not, I'm saying we don't have an ordinance
Right.
that restricts that.
Right, that's why we got in trouble up there. And trust me, we received a lot of calls, did we, Chad? You know, people was trying to go to work and all this was going on. It was devastating, wasn't it? I mean, we was up there sometimes 3 or 4 times at night, wasn't we, Chad? As a matter of fact, we even bought equipment because of bands. And I'm not saying alcohol was the whole thing, bands was a part of it too, but we still got the calls. Because people couldn't go to bed and sleep to go to work the next day. So I think we need to look at all that. So I think the proper way to handle this is we have a workshop. To make sure, hopefully we cross all the T's and dot all the I's. That's my opinion. And then, and maybe our distance is too great, 1,200 feet is too much, that's fine.
So I'm assuming you have a location that you're showing here, right? I mean, you said you're not asking for a location or somebody, but you do have a spot here that you're talking about.
No, I was just talking about the
Well,
restaurant.
you're showing this spot from there to there.
Yeah, yes, it's a Mexican
That's
restaurant.
that's the 2 buildings, that's the school and the Mexican
Right,
restaurant.
so this is R1 right beside that garage, is that what you say it is?
No,
Yeah.
So,
And that's okay, you do have some R1 in businesses that backs up to each other. Do I think that would be a problem down there? Not really, cause it's fairly close, but I'm speaking, I only deal with the calls the city gets. And we know what we've got. That's the only reason I brought that up. And it was devastating. I mean, to be honest with you, they went out of business, I'm glad they did. Cause it wasn't letting up, was it, Jack? And, you know, picture yourself if you live in R1 and there's a business there. You can't sleep to go to work the next day. I can understand that with us folks. So maybe we need to have a workshop. In the meantime, whoever this gentleman is that's got that, what's the protocol? He comes and asks for a beer
Well, he
permit?
files an application for a beer permit.
But by your statute, you're not gonna give it to
But you don't know
You're
that.
presuming something that is incorrect.
them.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah. It's not true.
Until it's denied, that's just a conclusion that's not warranted.
okay.
Hypothetically, it would be very, in my opinion, not these folks, mine. Hypothetically, it would be very foolish for us to do this and we don't even have somebody that's requested a beer permit. That starts the process. Right, Chris?
That would start the process.
Yeah.
There's other,
Or an alderman could start the process.
That's correct.
That's the two
yeah,
processes.
if I may, there's other criteria that's gotta be met, not just distance, so we'd have to see if he meets those things also.
Yeah, I mean, the law's plain about, you know, the whole application, what they have
Right.
to do, and the laws associated with selling alcohol.
Yeah.
I mean, all of that goes hand in hand.
Cause you know what, we're at the top of the list there, it's 1,200 feet, that's a long ways, you know.
There's a huge gap between, you know, the first 400 and, you know, where Mount Carmel is and where we're at 1,200. That's a huge gap.
You know, but I think that's the proper way to do it, and we'll
Okay.
have a workshop. And if the board chooses to lower the distance, you know, I've had conversations, chief, he thinks it's, if I ain't mistaken, it's a little bit high. Did he?
Did, like I said, my concerns is also the residential areas
Right.
that these
That's-
things butt
that's my
up to.
concern.
And then once you open it up, you can open it up to other type of businesses
Yeah.
too.
But this is an existing restaurant, been there for years. and-
Yes,
Yeah,
And.
and they can
I
sell
agree. I
liquor
think-
down
I think
there
the
tomorrow
distance
if they
is too
go to the
much.
state.
You know, the school, you know, 1,200 feet from a school, I don't really see it, you know, getting it lower, 300-400 feet is gonna be an issue for the school at all. And that's coming from a retired school teacher, so.
okay.
Well, I appreciate your time. See you in a month.
Well, you need to talk to the gentleman that's got that, and,
I'll have him here a month from today.
well, he needs to.
It's not here, it's before the beer board.
Oh, he needs to go ahead and submit the application prior to the next meeting.
He needs to apply to the beer board for a permit first. That's how he gets a beer permit, not by coming to,
Okay.
before.
But
the
he
city
can do
council.
that at any time.
Yeah.
Okay.
He just can't come in here at the BMA meeting and say, I need a beer permit, it doesn't work. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He needs to go through the process. And it's a pretty good process, cause it's been done that way for many, many years.
There's a background check of some type.
There's
I
a
don't know
lot,
who sits
there's
on the
other
beer
things
board.
our chief just told you, that I'm sure he's aware of, cause he will be involved too. Trust me, the chief of police will. As a matter of fact, I think you're on the beer board.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
This is the same gentleman that has a place in Mount Carmel that's open.
Sure is. He
So
just-
he's been through this in Mount Carmel.
Oh, yeah, he did it
He
up there,
knows.
so he
He
knows
knows.
what you need to do. And he didn't ask me to do this. I came down here because it's inconveniencing the citizens of Churchill to have to go outside this municipality to eat Mexican food and drink them.
Right.
That's
But
why.
so as far, but as far as the
So
board is
you're on.
concerned, he's not even expressed an interest.
He is interested in having
Right,
a beer.
but he hasn't expressed an interest to us.
Correct.
So that would be, like they said, the first step is for him to apply, for the permit and express his interest to us.
Well, and if I ain't mistaken, even before Kathy expresses to us, he's gotta follow the proper paperwork
Right, but
and
that's
go through the procedures the city has to do that.
Right, that's expressing the interest, is filling out the application.
Yeah. So
Okay.
you just tell him that, and then it eventually probably will get to the BMA, but there's a process before it gets there. Because you got to understand, and we're not trying to be difficult, anybody could walk in here and say, I want a beer permit for every.
We don't have a
That
problem with
ain't, that ain't the procedures that's in place. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So,
Again, I appreciate your time. Apologize for taking so much of it.
no, that's fine.
Thanks for the statistical information. It'll help make the decision.
Okay, thank you, sir.